turned over a bright metal shell that rippled when
She says human longing for mystery leads to a commonality of belief in immortality.
Dad's late or I'm early. Either way, I have time to scout the pens.
Redemption and claustrophobia, what artists understand. Not valuing the world.
I'm Marge Saiser. I've lived here a long time in Nebraska. Wasn't born here, but came as a baby. My dad was in the service in Texas after he was shipped overseas. My mother brought me as a baby back to Nebraska. I grew up in a little town north of O'Neill, nearly to the South Dakota border. The town's name is Naper, and it's near the Niobrara and the Kippahaw. A good place to grow up. The free write process for me is to keep the hand moving. Just keep going. You think you haven't got anything to write, and many times it doesn't pan out, but the main thing is to keep the hand moving. First thoughts, not out of your head, but coming out of your heart or your body rather than an intellectual exercise. Write and write and write, and then if it begins sometimes, and this is fun when it happens, it's like the cruise control. When the cruise control takes over and the pedal goes down under your foot and it's off on its own. That's what it feels like. When you write 2 or 3 pages and it's going nowhere, and you keep the hand moving and you will find what you want to write about and it will take off and go on its own. I like to read a lot of different writers. I like to find a poem I like, hear it some way, see it in a magazine, a literary magazine, order the book and read a particular poet. I like to read a lot of different writers. I think I get my inspiration mostly from ordinary life. I like to think that ordinary life is important, not just mine, but everybody's, and that it's a good topic to write about. It's like saying, yes, it's okay to live in your kitchen, in your house with your family. It's okay to take an ordinary walk and write about it. I think that growing up here and being in Nebraska has really influenced my work because many of the images are of the rivers and the birds and the prairie plants, the grassland. Grassland is inspiring to me. It doesn't look dull at all. The colors of the big blue stem and little blue stem, even in the winter, the colors are so red, and so that influence is there. I think that everybody writes from a place. I like to read about places other than Nebraska and poems that are very much centered in the city. I learn from those. I'm interested in wherever people live, but I know that the plains has been a big influence on me. I wrote when I was a child. I had a teacher that read it and enjoyed reading it. That was important. I come from a family, as many of us do, where stories were important. Not stories that we read and retold, but stories in the family, to make a story out of something that happened, some ordinary thing. So I think that has been helpful to me as a writer. For periods of time, there would be years when I didn't write. I was busy, I was making a living, I was raising my family, and then I would come back to it. And I think that is important to say to young people, that you'll probably have times when you think, well, I'll never write again, but you will. I've really enjoyed working with young students. I think that one of the most important things that we can do for writers of any age is to encourage them to write more, not just rework. Editing is so important, but with that, to keep writing so that we don't pin everything on trying to make something out of this one piece or these few pieces, but to write a lot in abundance, that your writing improves, I think, if you write and write and write. I think the books that are coming, the manuscripts that I'm shaping now, will have the same kind of evolution where they will start to gel, and I'll see what needs to be included. In this manuscript, Bones of a Very Fine Hand, the themes that began to show up were hands, many hands, and bones, and family, of course, card games, and pictures of all kinds, whether it's an ultrasound or a photograph. Those kinds of things began to hold the manuscript together, and I think that'll happen as I start to work with some of the other collections, piles of work, and really get into them and see what happens. I thought I'd begin with a couple of love poems. I thought I'd start with a silly one. Imagine a cabin in the woods, a lake good for fishing, a small town nearby. This poem is called This Ain't No Bass Boat Day. My love is in the shower, his elbows banging the sides. The shower small, as the cabin is small. The woods huge around the cabin, around me, waiting in bed as I am for my love to be done in the shower. My love already done with fishing. 3 big walleye keepers, 2 thrown back. My love having already walked down to the boat in the dark, having already fished, and come back, he says, victorious. Ready now for a romp, he says, in this haystack I've been keeping warm. Haystack nothin', I say. More like, I declare, a whole darn marina. This ain't no 16-foot Lund day. Consult your almanac. If luck holds, if the wind is right, this could be your 20-footer inboard-outboard day. This could be your offshore racer day. With any luck at all, I tell him, this could be your open seas day, your unlimited hydroplane V8 with supercharger day. This ain't no snark day, no John boat on top of the car day. This ain't no Yellow Jacket 9.9 Evinrude day. You can start hoping, I tell him, for a twin-hulled Hobie catamaran day. The moon perched as it was for luck last night, a golden grosbeak above the flat dark lake. You might hope for your 40-foot 3-deck Grady White day. And later, if luck holds, if the wind is right, we'll have a late breakfast in town at the cafe. If luck holds, if the wind is right, maybe our ultimate good luck charm, the town eccentric, will return. He'll come into the cafe, bow to the waitress, his green cap pulled down on his forehead like a good omen, and he'll shuffle in his skinny leg way to his favorite booth in the back, sprinkling our future good fortune right and left, singing and shuffling, shuffling and singing, only slightly off key. I don't know why I love you like I do. I don't know why, I just do. I thought I'd read a couple of poems from a series I'm working on, where the poem begins with something you hear on the news and takes off from there. This one is called No Cell Phones in My Restaurant. No cell phones in my restaurant, he says. Get out. The patrons at the other tables applaud. We applaud no cell phones. We applaud salad and breadsticks without loud, one-sided conversations. We applaud throwing out the man with the cell phone. We want to throw out the part of us that has to do two things at once. I want to throw out the part of me that sat in the tub, no, keep that part, but the part that took the phone along and made a call. Called Mary Ann to wish her happy birthday while I was sitting in warm water, the soap and washcloth waiting. But here is redemption. After that call, I drove to Walton, the small town east of the city, the town that is a ballpark and one cafe, the cafe in the building that used to be the post office. Walton was closed today. I went up the steps to the cafe. The doorknob wouldn't turn in my hand. So I walked the Mopac Trail east into the country, walked alone, loving the solitude and the crickets, the jays showing their underskirts. My footsteps on the trail began to say a psalm, because it was a psalm morning if I ever saw one. This is the jay the egg hath made, I said. Let us be glad in it. This is the air the morning hath made. Let us rise and fly in it. This is the purple, the yellow. This is the stone the path gives. Let us pick it up and go on. This is the web the spider spins. Let us rejoice and clown around. This is the tunnel the railroad made. Let us take it over. This is the butterfly the summer made. Let us watch it flap away. This is the cottonwood, the goldenrod. Let us sing for it. This is the milkweed the monarch needs. Let us hum to it. This is the heart that Marjorie has. Let her live long and watch stars. This is her time. She has no other. Another daily news poem. The Man Who Lives in the Airport. The man who lives in the airport will not go home, not even if the men in the blue suits come again today, not even if they say he may indeed go now, not even if the bureaucracy which prevented gives its permission. The man who lives in the airport has a table round at the airport cafe. He does not see the dove or the leaves of the tree by the sidewalk. He does not see the sidewalk, does not step on it, the soles of his shoes having stepped for years only on the black and white tiles of the airport restroom, the tiles before the third urinal, the first sink, only the gray carpet of the fourth concourse. His table round, his coffee black. He sits as we sit at our tables now. He walks the circuit he has chosen, its faint orbit from table to door to the two chairs he sleeps upon. In the old days, assistant diplomats came to tell him why he could not walk French soil, why he could not leave the airport. They explained what was needed, what the delay, the complication. Today, to his table they come in their non-airport haircuts, their non-airport shaves, their shirts not the white that comes from laundry in the sink. They open briefcases, show him papers. Simon says, "Go." But the man who lives in the airport shakes his head, folds his papers, slides them into the inside pocket of his coat. He taps his 2 o'clock cigarette on the ashtray, smiles politely, opens his diary, takes the cap off his pen, writes until the suits leave. He checks his watch. Time to find a newspaper with a crossword. This is his airport. His crowds coming, but not to stay. Going without need of farewell. Someone to clean his sink, vacuum his cafe. The shifts changing in an unchanging way, like coffee in the reliable cup. His croissant, his salad, his glass of Chardonnay. His diary open, patient, or closed, loyal. Nothing deserts him here. A poem from the Rocky Mountains. Loving my daughter in the mountains. Hard climb behind us. We clown on the tundra, my daughter and I, laughing. The sleeves of my too big sweater swing limp beyond my hands. She pushes the bandana over my eyes. I dance for her, blindfolded, happy. The water in the canteen sloshing with my spinning and twirling. My daughter laughs until no sound comes, and she must sit, voiceless, on the rocks to recover. On this day, in this place, the peaks standing watch. I love her, and I can only dance it. My old shoes, quick as the feet of a deer on the grasses. A longer poem, also set in the mountains. This is called Drawing My Son in Charcoal. With the little nubbin of charcoal left over from my drawing class, I draw my son reading his book on the couch. I draw the curve of his shin bone, the way his legs lie together like lovers, the way his toes curl. I draw the fold of his shirt, the gap where the hairs of his belly show. I draw his elbow resting on the couch, holding the wrist up, the fingers grasping the book. I draw his glasses, throwing back the light. The lenses I leave mostly paper white. The brows and nose I suggest. The shadows under his chin. The line of the lip, which draws itself when I set the edge of the scrap of charcoal on the paper below where his warm breath may reach. Drawing my son in the evening after the day of the peak hike. After supper, which was soft tortillas. My son folded his tortilla, the first one, so the juices would have a pocket to stay in. On the second one, he said he was using the finger valve method. His pinky on one side of the tortilla, his ring finger on the other, keeping the sweet hot juices in. He, meanwhile, exclaiming above it, telling those at the table of the exquisite perfection of the hike, and of this particular tortilla, these particular beans and salsa, and chunks of onion and tomato and cilantro, this particular triangle of chocolate pie. After the tortilla and the pie, after Leinenkugel's original and plenty of water to rehydrate, after the pitch game, which we lost because we offended the card gods, as my son said. As he said, if you don't bid when they give you an ace and a jack of the same suit, if you wax timid, the card gods get disgusted. After the pitch game, My son lying on the couch, reading, as the cabin gets dimmer and darker. The others yawning and talking in the room. I with my paper and charcoal and lapboard, drawing my son. Outside, above the deck, the bats flitter, making a living. The stars show up. The moon takes its shape as if on a canvas. The swallows and even their babies are quiet in the tree by the window. I draw my son as he reads and shifts and thinks of whatever is in his book. He's thinking of that which he imagines. I'm thinking of that which I see, trying, as the drawing teacher told me, for volume and perspective. I want to draw my son in charcoal. I could do the bowl of apples on the table, the pencil, and the deck of cards sticking out of the fruit in an interesting, unplanned way. But I want to draw my son, draw how it adds to my love of him that he looks like my father. Except my father would have sat up in the chair, would perhaps have been not so restless. I draw the arm holding the book, draw it partially and rub it out 3 times, because he changes position before I can get the wrist and fingers right. I wait each time, thinking he will change back so that I can finish. I shade the thigh and knee and shin while I wait. I rub out the charcoal elbow and arm and unfinished wrist, erase it with the eraser the artist gave me. I pick up the black smudges with a little square of chamois. I begin again. This time, the hand is on top of the book and he hangs the book over his face. But I cannot figure out the angle and perspective and the bones of the hand before he changes again. And this time he turns in the couch and everything is different. One knee up, then down, now he is on his side. I go with the arm as I have begun it. I imagine how it would hold the book, if it held the book as it used to. I fake it, looking at what is real before me in the cabin, drawing what used to be. The other arm now, the one I was going to drape across his belly as if he were rubbing and even scratching his skin, which he was, but isn't. That arm he puts behind his head, cocks the elbow, so I draw it that way. And what I have is my son changing, getting more and more comfortable. Not the way I saw him, or even imagined him. Not the way I have put him together, but the man, reading, the man who will close the book, stretch, and rise, and walk away. In the morning, he will make the apricot scones for breakfast. He will knead them, the oven ticking, ready, the fruit embedded like amber jewels in the dough under the heels of his hands. Pulling up beside my husband at the stoplight. We are going to the same place, but we take 2 cars. Sunday morning, and there's not much traffic, so I pull up beside him at the light. The sun is shining on the road. Here he is in his car, beside my car, the curve of his shoulder through the glass, his face fresh from a shave, his hair against the brown of his neck. He turns and blows me a kiss. I watch it float on by. I ask for another. I think of him coming into the dark bedroom in the mornings, the sound of his work boots across the carpet, the scent of his face when he finds me in the covers, pulls the blanket away, and kisses my eyebrow, the corner of my mouth, tells me the weather report and the precise time of day. I roll down the window, whistle in my throat, pull my glasses crooked on my face, do my best baboon snorting, pound the horn as if it were bread dough. There's only the lady in the white Taurus, but he is embarrassed. Glad to see the green. I'm stepping on the gas, catching up, wondering what I can do at 56th and Calvert. Perfume counter, Dillard's. The clerk shows him cologne, thinking that's what he means, a $30 plastic spray bottle. No, he says, his checkbook open flat on the glass of the counter. No, in his bargain t-shirt, $15 haircut, Ward's jeans. No, he says softly, perfume. She brings up from the depths in their white boxes 1/4 ounce, 1/3 ounce, 1/2 ounce, and tells him the price of each, which he sort of knows from last time. And I, in my 5-year-old Lake Superior, many-washed gray sweatshirt, and my hair all over the place with rain and wind and the wrong shampoo, know what she doesn't. He'll take the real thing, the big size. And because I further know that if I should be so foolish as to give up the ghost, kick the bucket, cash in my chips, he would, not that he's fickle, eventually buy some good brand for some other woman. I make my plan, the universe being thrown together as it is, to live, to be the no substitute, the real, the one hanging in there beside him while he writes the check and signs it and draws a line under his name. This poem deals with how you want to buy something for your child. It's called shopping. I would buy for my daughter earrings of pale green and indigo glass. She would think them funny, would love them, would say, "What were you thinking?" In my mind, I lay them into a carved red box, the pads of my fingers over the circles and petals on the lid. Also this pair, the stones red in the light, in the shade black. I would be colorful and generous. The fine lines in her throat, the shine of her eyes. I buy a barrette for the braid that sometimes lies above the bones of her shoulders, on the right or left when she turns. A bauble, the light shining on it, a yellow floating up inside the brown under the surface. I want her hands to open the clasp, her elbows in the air. My daughter talking to someone when she fastens it, or talking to no one but herself in front of the mirror in the morning. I want to have given, to have wrapped in blue paper, crackling and wrinkling like years of not going wild, of sensible conservation. She may think sometimes how I gave her this or that, her hands opening. She will wear it, this modest pin, this abundant love, her rich dark hair. My daughter awaiting the birth of her child. This poem is called My Daughter Afraid. What can I tell her? That everything will be all right? That there is nothing scary or bad out of our control? That there is a God whose eye is on the sparrow? My daughter is afraid because of numbers on a blood test. Because she is afraid, because I am afraid, I tell her how it will be. The baby, born smiling and speaking couplets, will be a ham, I say. I say, the baby will crack a bad joke for the doctor. You, supine, will applaud. The cord will be cut, and you will be reunited. This beloved bird that tapped daily on the wall of your body will lie in the crook of your arm. In this version, we hold the child on a porch at a cabin on a lake in the mornings and the evenings. We teach her how to say loon, how to say eagle. In this version, there is no spina bifida, no syndrome, no Rh negative. Everything unkind lies soft on the bottom of the lake, being gummed by, about to become scales and fin of, that good, slow-moving, large-mouthed god, carp. In this version, there is no fear, no young woman crying. In this version, there are flight feathers for each eagle, rising, gathering. In this version, the eye of the bird can see clearly each toe and finger of the child on the lap of the woman on the porch. The fin of each foolish perch, each circling bass. In this version, the loon, that ancient which cannot walk on land, swims safely on the lake, safely dives and surfaces, treads over the safest, deepest water. In this version, the child, eagle-eyed, watches the white plate of the moon above the black house of the pines. In this version, I can see the child's hand, the fingers spread in mid-air, her face and body alive, safe, listening, her eye in the dark, bright with the will to hear it. My daughter laughing, I laughing, the cry of the loon. Breakfast with my son. Breakfast with my son in a restaurant at 8 in the morning. My son tired and not altogether happy, but he's kind and wants to spend time with me. Says yes next week too. I want to be a better mother to my son, want to give affirmation, like the stamp on the credit card offers, pre-approved. What do I want arranging these breakfast meetings? I can't make up for my mistakes, that's not it. What is it then? I can't advise about work, how it doesn't satisfy, how it stresses. I didn't solve that for myself then or now. I can't advise about marriage. Experience doesn't transfer one person to another. I can hardly remember my own lessons, the lessons I keep having to learn over and over myself, that empty feeling inside. Maybe that will help somehow, for him to know others have it too, some form of it. Perhaps that's my purpose, my goal here. The water puddling around the glasses. Here we are talking, our cars parked at the meters nearby. This our appointed time. The light on my son's glasses, the traffic going by, one red pickup after another. Eggs and toast and jelly and juice and story and response. Out the window, summer trees, or first snow, or sleet again. One more day of spring rain, one more bluster and blow, one more fresh produce semi parked across the way. Our arms folded, plates pushed back, elbows on the table, the voice catching, the eyes not faking anything anymore. To listen and remember and tell from time to time about the empty feeling. One empty to another in an upscale restaurant, once a week, rain or shine, telling and then lonely but not alone going on. The green coat. It was a good wool and a good cut. Gold-colored buttons, heavy and embossed. Shawl collar lying on her straight shoulders. She came out of the living quarters into the kitchen in the green coat. No one in the cafe but her brother at the counter and her husband talking to him. These two men, having bought the coat in Spencer, having brought it to her, they had been waiting, and she coughed in the way she did when she didn't know what to say. She unbuttoned the button, slid her hand into the pocket. Her husband came into the kitchen giving a wolf whistle. Her hair brushed back, a woman with good bones, long legs, and Irish-English hands. Her lashes on her cheeks, her eyes looking at the floor. Today, on the anniversary of my father's death, I walked on the dam among the geese, the whole flock quiet, as they are sometimes when you walk through them at sunrise. Then one shaking out her wings and running toward a direction, the others in the air with her, before you can figure out who is truly the leader. It was 12 years ago today, giving as little trouble as he could, dying on a Sunday in the daytime, not thrashing about. The geese lift off, folding their legs back as if that's the way they prefer it, slipping into air, their toes pointed behind them. He had smiled in photographs, happy to stand beside his beloved, the space ready, the year of birth cut into granite, numbers already there, curves in speckled, polished stone. Today, there are old songs on the radio, and we sing along together in the car, my husband and I, two fools singing down 27th Street, weaving in and out, sitting in the line backed up at the light, singing If I Had a Hammer, singing Puff the Magic Dragon, singing Old Stewball Was a Racehorse, singing That's What You Get for Loving Me. I ain't the love you thought I'd be. I got 100 more like you. So don't be blue. I'll have 1,000 before I'm through. And we don't care if we look ridiculous singing and jabbing each other. The light's green and there's another song coming. While the mind is clear. My mother sorts her photographs at the kitchen table, a pile for each daughter. She pauses, picture in hand. Women in front of a car, someone's foot on the running board, ankle and heel and new leather, the cock of elbows. This is what she has, indelible. What I have, The long afternoon at the cabin when my daughter and I killed the mosquitoes, kept them from the baby's neck and ears, caught them in our hands, her hand or my hand closing on them. Big mosquitoes, these lake mosquitoes, my daughter said, big but slow. We flattened them against the wall or let them land on the forearm where we smeared them harmless. The child sleeping, the cabin quiet, long shade of trees around us, blue of the lake in the window. This remains, the long afternoon, the cardinal on the boards of the deck, cat coming to the door. This remains. We worked, wordless, signed to each other where the enemy was and who should strike. The baby slept, breath and breath and breath. We read or napped, the loaf uncut on the table, the pie 3/4 gone, the simple rice, boys with fishing poles passing our cabin on the way to the pier, faded formica of the tabletop, slow whir of fans, stacks of books. As long as the mind is clear, moments alone at the water's edge. My mother sorts her photographs, thinks who should have this one or that one. I watch her hands choosing and lifting and turning a photograph. My mother alone with some moment she had and has and will lose. My daughter and I, the pair of us, moving in the cabin against mosquitoes, breeze filling the curtain. My mother does not speak, the ends of her fingers holding some black and white morning or afternoon, light and shade over the grass or over the sand. The screenhouse empty, the red-eyed loons diving out of sight into the lake. I will close with this poem. It's a longer poem called Not So Much Bottom Line as Blue Stem. I saw a man hugging his son. He took him in, rubbed his back, folded him to his own body in a manner I have seen one person hold another in dreams. And I was ashamed how I had a moment before been promoting myself, trying to get ahead, selling myself, when what really matters is so fragrant and loyal, so close against the ribs and next to the beating noise of the heart, that I longed to be there in that space between people. I wanted to be worthy so that my father would rise up and cross a distance quickly to hold me. Hold me first with his eyes, across the space of the room. Then the smell of the skin of his neck and the soap in his shirt would hold me softly, not so much to crush as to join. In that warm and loyal space, I wanted to learn to be better, not so much profit as mystery, not so much increase as elkhorn, not so much to envy as to bud, not so much to advance as to seed. Today, my friend told me he is wearing his dead friend's reading glasses, taking up her glasses out of his pocket and putting them on his face, wearing something she had held and lifted toward her eyes many times a day without thinking. Glasses she laid on the pages of her books, glasses she chose and cursed and looked for when they were lost, folded like a tidy bundle of twigs on the table. Glasses her eyes looked devilishly over when she cracked a joke. He said when he took her to the hospital that last time, She wanted him to gather up this and that. And after she had died, there were her reading glasses in his shirt pocket, as if she herself had tapped them in, saying, "Here, babe, it ain't scotch, but these will definitely last longer." So my friend is wearing his dead friend's reading glasses, and I want to do that too, to take up what someone has accidentally or purposely left me. My friends are helping me get a little closer, not so much to conquer as to leaf out, not so much to own as to coyote, not so much critic as Niobrara, not so much one-up as switchgrass, sumac, bluegill, catfish, wolf. Back and forth they rocked in the room, the man holding a child grown holding his father, rocking one another in time. "Oh, Papa, I'm sorry." Each come home to this neck and shoulders, spine and arms, and hand in the hair, rocking slow as midnight rain. I saw once on a wide plain a cloud of geese rising, a spiral in the light. The geese, like hundreds of papers in a whirlwind, rising, rising. And I wanted to whirl in that column. I held out my arms, raised my face. Not so much the power as the trail, not so much to garner as to free. And I rock with my father, "Papa, oh Papa." I hold out my arms to the column of birds. I rock back and forth. My mother, father, friends, daughters, sons' arms hold me. Not so much the market as the daybreak, not the rush but the lake, not so much resume but to live, not so much promote as bison, elk, not so much the words as the licks, aquifer, sandhills, blowout, plum brush. My friend is wearing his dead friend's reading glasses. I too want to take up something of hers, of yours, something that rested on your skin or hair, something your hand touched. I want to extend my hand, want you to reach with yours, as if I can stand close enough to matter in that radius where we are separate together. Not so much impress as honest, not so much merge as search, not so much first as true, not so much to grasp as to fly. Thank you.